Greetings and welcome to another edition of AUHSD Future Talks. I'm your host, Superintendent Michael Matsuda, Superintendent of the Anaheim Union High School District. And as our 7,000 plus podcast listeners know, this show is all about the future of education in not only in Orange County, but regionally and nationally. And we've been blessed to have some amazing national leaders, national educators, CEOs of companies. And today's guest is a longtime friend of AUHSD, a really amazing, transformational leader, the president of Cal State Fullerton, Mr. Framroze Virjee, Dr. Framroze Virjee. So, Fram, would you like to say hi to our audience?
Well, I'm very glad to say hi, and very glad to see you, Mike. As when you said Anaheim Union High School District, I felt like I should cheer because how much I love your district and our district, and what a great relationship we have with each other. You know, we have 41,500 students, and a whole lot of them come right from you guys. So great to be here, and great to talk to your listeners.
Well, wonderful. So we always start with that first question about, who are you, Fram, and what is your story, and how did you become the president of a major powerhouse like Cal State Fullerton?
Well, it's kind of a strange story. I didn't come to higher ed like most people do. I am an immigrant to this country. My dad is from India. My mom is from Sweden. And I was actually, my dad is a ship captain in the British Merchant Marines, because India was still a British colony when he was born. And so he was allowed to take his family to sea. So I was literally almost born on the ship. They had to pull the ship into the harbor in London, which is the only reason I was born in London. So I'm an Englishman of sorts. So I grew up my first 6 years sailing the seven seas on a ship with my parents. They decided I had to go to school. And my dad is an orphan. My mom had family here in California, so we moved to the United States. Came across on the Queen Mary, believe it or not, never knowing it was going to be in my own backyard for the rest of my life. I grew up in San Pedro, California, right up the freeway from here. I am first generation. I am the first in my family to go to college, not just in my own personal family with mom and dad and my sister, but all my aunts and uncles and cousins and everybody else. I went to UC Santa Barbara for undergrad. The only reason I went there is because they had a great water polo team, and I wanted to play water polo. I wasn't very sophisticated in my choice of college. Don't follow in my footsteps. But it was a great place to go to school. I enjoyed it. I did play water polo there. Met the love of my life, Julie, there, my first week of school. We've been married ever since. And I went through 4 years of Santa Barbara and then straight into law school. I wanted to be a person that changed the world. Between my junior and senior year of college, I spent some time in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill, and I knew I was going to be president of the United States, right? That's what I was going to do. And you had to go to law school for that. Yeah. So I wanted to go to Georgetown Law School, which was the best law school around if you wanted to be in politics. Applied, got in, and everything else. Well, back then, and this is a long time ago, 1982, Georgetown was about $30,000 a year, which was a whole lot of money for my family. And I came downstairs and I was listening to my parents, and my dad was talking about selling the family car so that I could go to law school. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I can't do that to my folks. And I had gotten into UC Hastings, which was very highly ranked, even higher ranked than Georgetown. And it was $800 a year. So I came in and told mom and dad, I think I'm going to Hastings. And my parents danced in the kitchen and sent me off to law school. I spent 3 years at Hastings, had a great time, loved law school. Knew nothing about what it was to be a lawyer, but was blessed beyond measure to be able to go to work at a law firm, O'Melveny & Myers, which is one of the largest law firms in the country, oldest law firms in California. And Warren Christopher, who was Secretary of State, was at my firm and was my mentor. And Bill Coleman, who was the Secretary of Transportation, the first African-American cabinet member, was my mentor at O'Melveny. And I spent 30 years at O'Melveny working. Had a great career, loved it, and retired because Julie and I have a nonprofit in Rwanda. We have a deaf school and a preschool and sewing cooperatives and a whole bunch of stuff. So we were going to move to Rwanda and spend the rest of our productive years in Rwanda. And I got sidetracked. The chancellor asked me to come to the CSU system and be the general counsel, the lawyer, the chief lawyer for all 23 campuses. I said, nah, I'm running away from being a lawyer. I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. I want to do something meaningful. I want to make change. I want to make the world a better place. He said, what are you, crazy? I have 500,000 students who are going to make this world a better place. Come to the CSU and help me make the CSU better so that they can make the world better. And he said, you've been sucking it out of California for a long time. It's time for you to get back to California before you go off to Rwanda. I couldn't argue with that. And I went to the system office and was the general counsel for 5 years. Then I'm ready to go to Rwanda. Julie's saying it's about time we go. And the chancellor says, yeah, I just got one more thing for you to do. Maybe could you go down to Fullerton and be the president? And I thought, oh my gosh, I never in my million years did I think that I'd be a college president. I had taught at Chapman Law School and at Claremont Graduate School, so I knew, and I had represented universities my whole life. My whole legal career. And so I thought about it a lot for about 3 seconds. And I said, absolutely. And here I am. And it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. It's not a job. It's an identity. It's a
calling.
It's a calling. And I love it. It's just fantastic. So that's my story.
That is an amazing story. That's the first time I've heard the whole story. And because I know that you are a sophisticated leader in terms of understanding the complexity of being a first-generation immigrant, with all of the challenges coming from poverty, right? Really connecting and advocating for so many of our young people. In fact, I think when I first met you, you were like, I think the interim president, but you coming out of the CSU system, and you took a look at our Promise initiative. We call it the Anaheim Pledge,
right?
And the rest is history because we've had tremendous success with these types of collaboratives between Cal State, UCI, Community College, and of course the K-12 feeder, which is us. We have tremendous metrics across the board. Why, coming from you as a president, why is this so important, especially focusing on Latinx, African American, and other marginalized student groups?
Well, Michael, I think you and I would agree that education is the great equalizer. It is the best opportunity to provide equity and social justice and create an inclusive community. It's the only way from my perspective. I know what education has done for me and the people around me. And we at Cal State Fullerton, like Anaheim Union High School District, we are today what Orange County will be next week. We are what California will be next month, and our whole country will be next year. We're 50% Latinx at Cal State Fullerton. We're 25% Asian Pacific Islander at Cal State Fullerton, and then 25% everything else. We're 60% first gen, 60% Pell eligible students. So we're the only CSU in Orange County. Now that may not sound like a big deal, but there are 5 in LA County. There's 2 in San Diego, 5 in the Bay Area, 3 in the Imperial Valley. And there's 1 in Orange County. So we take our responsibility very seriously. Many of our students are Anaheim students. And these students are first-generation college students, just like I was. These students, I see them on our campus. I see our first-gen students on our campus. All our students, just like your high school students, carry backpacks with all their books and everything. But I can see my first-gen students, because they're not just carrying their books. They're carrying mom and dad and their aunts and uncles and everybody else on their shoulders as well. If they do this, if they succeed, not just are the brothers and sisters going to go, but I have moms and dads coming back to college, aunts and uncles coming to college. A college degree, if you get it, is something that can never be taken away from you. It's holding it's knitting the future into your body. So higher education is not just important for economic development, which of course it is in Orange County. It's so important to us, but it's also important for equity, for social justice, for building community, knitting people together. Having an educated society will expand economic mobility. It'll increase tax revenues, improve equity, but it'll also just build a community that we all want to live in.
You've spoken very eloquently and passionately about social justice and equity. What are your major priorities as CSUF president moving forward post-pandemic? Because definitely these gaps are growing. If they're not shrinking, they're growing.
Yeah. These were our goals before the pandemic, and after, the exigency is just even more important. The emergency is even more important. Look, I want my first of all, closing the equity gaps for all our students, to make sure that our Latinx students, our African American students, our API students, our Dreamers, our LGBTQ students graduate at the same rates as our general population. Making sure that happens is a huge issue for us. When I came here, and this is not, I'm not telling you this because I did it. I'm telling you because we did it, my whole campus. When I came here, the equity gap was at 11.5%. Then we brought it down to 7.5%, 5.5%, 3%. We've closed it for our community college transfer students, and now we're concentrating on our first-time freshmen. So closing that equity gap so they graduate at the same rates. But I want my students not just to be prepared for their first job, but today's college graduate is going to have 3 or 4 different careers. Mm-hmm. So they need to be prepared for their second job and their third job and their fourth job. I don't just want them to be prepared for their job. I want them to be prepared for life. I want them to be CEOs and CFOs, absolutely. But I also want them to be community organizers. I want them to sit on corporate boards, but I want them to sit on boards of education. I want to sit them on the United Way board or the Boys and Girls Clubs board, to work in soup kitchens, to run nonprofits. I want them to believe in the beloved community that we need to create to support each other. So my top 3 goals for my students: retention, graduation, and then full-fledged citizens. I want my students to vote. I am so proud that Cal State Fullerton, for the last 2 election cycles, has registered more students to vote than any other university in California, and more of our students have voted than any other university in California.
Huge aspirational goals that you are achieving. But you're talking about a big cultural shift, right? All of us who lead public institutions are having to shift the drivers and make cultural changes. What are some of the things that have been challenging that you feel that you've sort of targeted in terms of this cultural shift?
Well, what I'm noticing, higher education generally, but I will, Michael, you'll laugh at this. If you think it's hard to move a high school district or a school district in one direction, try moving higher ed. Oh my gosh, we are so set in our ways. And so one of the things that we've learned with this new paradigm is to be more, not just more resilient, but more flexible. I remember when we moved all of our classes online at the beginning of the pandemic. And I told all my professors, you're going to be teaching on Zoom. And some of them looked like me, like I was from Mars. Some of them said, Zoom, what is that? Is that, and I'm just teasing about this, but, is that a popsicle at 7-Eleven? What is that? And now they are unbelievable. What they did was they all went back to school themselves, and they worked with their curriculum and the way they deliver courses and the accessibility for that. And now they love it. And our students love it. Now we were always resistant. We said face-to-face learning is the only way. And I still believe face-to-face learning is really, really important. But there also have to be alternate delivery systems for some of our students. So hybrid classes where students come to class sometimes, especially for labs and hand-on experiences, flipping the classrooms where the lectures are recorded and then you come to class for discussion and interaction. Recognizing that textbooks are expensive, and so using online free educational experiences for students. There's so many new and innovative ways. And what I love about this opportunity is the lemonade of the pandemic, which is it frees us to think outside the paradigms that we've been in. And I tell this to my students all the time as well. They say, "Oh my gosh, I've had 2 years of taking all my courses online." And I say, "Yeah, I totally understand. I do. But do you know that when you go out for a job interview, one of the things they're going to say to you is, well, a lot of this work is done online. Can you work from home? Are you a self promoter? Can you get yourself going? Can you think strategically?" Hey man, I've been going to class that way for 2 years. I know exactly how to do this. You guys actually have a leg up on everybody else. So there is a silver lining here.
So the SAT has been in the news recently. The UC has Board of Regents have voted to really not utilize the SAT anymore, and the CSU has followed suit as well. So this kind of leaves sort of a void in terms of how do universities assess students coming in terms of these types of resilient grit, emotional intelligence that are so needed. What is Cal State Fullerton doing that in terms of the admissions process?
So we, even before the Board of Trustees at the CSU decided to abandon the SAT and the ACT, we were moving in a different direction at Cal State Fullerton. So we're doing two things which are really key, and I hope moms and dads and students are listening to this, because this is what's coming for Cal State Fullerton, and I believe is the future for college admissions more generally. One, we're moving to multi-factor admissions. When the SAT was there, we only had two elements to decide whether you got into the Cal State Fullerton: your GPA and your SAT score, and it created a student eligibility index. Well, gosh, students are a heck of a lot more than their GPA and their SAT score. Some students work while they're going to school. Some students are a breadwinner for their family. They take care of their brothers and sisters, or maybe their parents themselves, or who knows. They're also very much involved in the community. Some students are volunteering and working for social change. So we're going to have all kinds of different factors that are going into in a multi-factor test to create a student eligibility index for a more holistic admissions process into Cal State Fullerton. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we're going to college-based admissions. Now, what does that mean? We're a university, but we have several different colleges: our College of Engineering and Computer Science, our College of Health and Human Development, our College of the Arts, our College of Communications, our business school. And so you will be admitted into those colleges, and then they will have different criteria for admitting in that multi-factor admissions process. So the goal is to broaden the scope and provide more opportunity for students to show us that they should come to our school.
Fram, we've been working on sort of these cutting edge areas, these pathways: artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, biotechnology. What is happening in sort of the parallel universe of universities? Are they moving in these similar directions, and how can we better create these needed partnerships?
Yeah, absolutely, we are. You mentioned a couple that are really important for us: cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, green energy, environmental engineering, sustainability. But you can also incorporate in those social issues as well: diversity, equity, inclusion, social justice, access, psychological well-being, mental health. So we focus a lot on our campus on those ideas, those big ideas, and let people take courses from different colleges and different areas that are going to help them with those. We are really emphasizing these days double majors, or a major and a minor, or maybe even two minors. Or even if you don't do that, maybe let's say you're an arts student. We have an amazing College of the Arts for performing arts, animation, music, etc. If you're going to make music your life, you better know how to read a contract, because you're going to want to get paid for what you're doing. So take a business class for art majors. Or if you're an engineer, well, if you're going to be a good engineer, eventually you're probably going to be an entrepreneur. or you're probably going to have to make presentations, be an administrator, take a communications course, maybe minor in communications. So we emphasize a lot of that, a more holistic view of what it is you're going to do into the future. Kind of thematically, let's talk about what's important to you, what makes your heart sing as a person, as a lifelong learner. What do you want to keep learning for the rest of your life? And let's focus on that. I promise you, if you do that, the rest will fall into place. You're going to find what you like doing if you pursue it with a passion.
Yeah, I agree. And it's great that you're sort of unleashing the creative energies of the faculty too, in terms of being more approaching life out of the box and being more integrated. In the minute or two that we have left here, Fram, what in the post-pandemic world, which is fraught with uncertainty, volatility, what message do you have for our young people today?
Well, the first thing I would say is everybody is coming out of the pandemic changed to some degree. And so don't ignore that. Don't try to go back to where we were. Recognize the new paradigm in which we are living. And I don't want people to ignore the tremendous loss, health crises, financial hardships, personal setbacks, but also be willing to embrace this new paradigm as an opportunity. The future is going to be different, but that doesn't mean it can't also be better. Understand the framework and the compassion that we need to have for each other. Living through probably the most bizarre and life-changing experiences in our lives that we've had so far. The pandemic revealed some real disparities in socioeconomics and healthcare accessibility and the digital access. We've been focusing on those things, but if you're willing to recognize and probably attack is the wrong word. That's probably not a great word, but embrace this change and be willing to devour it. You will soar. It's the best days are definitely ahead if you keep learning. So each of you high school students that are listening, you must. Of course, I want you to come Cal State Fullerton.
Of course.
But wherever you go, that's where you belong. So don't be shy to go to community college first if you want. Fullerton College right down the street, Santa Ana College. There are so many great community colleges in Orange County, and we partner with them. UCI is a great school. Chapman is a great school. But go to college, get your degree, and don't stop there. This year, more master's degrees were awarded than in any other year in past history. Cal State Fullerton graduates more women than any other university in California, more Latinx students than any other university in California. We are number 3 in the nation for graduating students of color. We're also a hugely rigorous university, number 13 in the nation for academic rigor, number 3 in the nation for social mobility, where our kids go when they graduate. So find the place you want to be, find your cohort, find your posse, find your people so that you stay and you love and you enjoy and bring the joy into your life, and you will soar. I know it.
Wow, what multiple mic drops that you ended with, Fram. And I know based on this, the excitement and energy coming out of here, you've certainly found your calling as president of the Cal State University Fullerton. On behalf of our 29,000 students and our 7,000 podcast listeners, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Thank you.
Great to be here. And I look forward to you guys sending us all your great students. We love them.